I think telling our stories and having our stories be in these spaces is so crucial to be part of that. And it's like the best thing when you get a message from someone who's seen your work and gone, oh, that's my story. That's why having these works and collections is so very, very important and mean a lot. My name is Sancintya Mohini Simpson, and I'm an artist based in Meanjin, Brisbane. My practice is informed by my maternal history as a descendant of indentured labourers who were sent from South India to South Africa in the late 1800s, early 1900s to work on sugar plantations. My practice very much is about trying to understand these histories, share them, but also as an individual, think about legacy and my own healing and processing of intergenerational trauma and the communities sort of who are connected to these histories. Kuli Karambu is the first time I've done such a large-scale panelled work on these histories. It's 15 panels and it shows different parts of this landscape of the sugar colonies, from the river to the plantations, but also the journey over oceans and the sea. And it primarily is focusing and telling the story of women who were indentured, whether in domestic work or agricultural, but also not just the work they did, but the work they did at home, in their private lives, and what their experiences were, from really tough, difficult, violent, to also cooking and taking care of children and just living and existing. This work is about representing them and telling the histories and acknowledging them, but also acknowledging what we don't know about them. So these are squirrel-haired brushes. So that's how it doesn't look like it's a painting, even though it's with paint and with brush, because it does these really fine lines. Because it holds lots of liquid, you can lean it to create sort of shapes, but primarily for lining, you're using that. Paintings have always been a way of storytelling and recording history in Indian culture. They might tell something orally, but they'll also show painting and visuals. So for me, that's a natural way to have these be represented and told. So this is my collection of postcards and magic glass slide plates and magazine prints and photos that I've been collecting. Like, this was not made for me to hold, but this is where one of my family members was sent to. They're very helpful resources for the work. And I have used this photograph as a reference in a painting. And then the river that mill follows is like a key river, and I've used that in a work. And I think that's why I'm become so obsessed with collecting, because I think it's trying to piece together or find something that tells their story. We think about archives in a very Western colonial sense. At the time, photography was just becoming something and was used as a big tool for selling the colonies. So when I'm looking at these archives and these stories, I'm not seeing the voices of anyone who could be my family. My practice is very much about responding to that loss, but not letting it defeat me, in a sense, not letting it to understanding that there are other ways of archiving and keeping knowledge and inheriting knowledge that perhaps in the Western or colonial sense isn't given the same status. This work is sort of choosing to tell our own stories, having this DNA in us, and choosing to have our own voices represent our families, rather than this document which is just having one perspective. That things could be a bit more nuanced. When you're thinking about decolonial practice, care is right up the top there. And I guess that's me also sort of playing with that idea of the decolonial imaginary, reimagining their experience, or just reimagining how they would have felt or what could have been, and using that to sort of fill in gaps. Trying to do it in a way that as complex individuals, not just a character for a colonial story. Even if it is acknowledging hard, difficult histories,